Hi there, and welcome to episode 3 of RealLife DevTalks with me, Hannah, and
David.
And today we would like to explore different ways of working in IT. We think this topic could be interesting for you to hear our thoughts about. There's been a lot of changes for sure in the last couple of years following the pandemic. So what are your experiences, David? Do you want to start?
Yeah, there's definitely some changes to how it was pre-COVID and how it is now post-COVID. As I remember, like pre-COVID, there wasn't even anything. There was some remote jobs, but it was not at all in the level that we're at now. And what I see mostly now is remote jobs, or actually more hybrid jobs, and then few on-sites, and then more and more remote. But yeah, that's definitely I think a good thing. That kind of one of the good things we got out of COVID was these, as us employees, got out of that.
Yeah. Well, you work in a hybrid setup right now.
It's pretty good, yeah. It's all hybrid, but you work mostly on site, right?
Well, yeah, my first job was completely on site. That was before COVID. Going to the office every day, it kind of feels strange that was the norm nowadays. After that, I worked fully remotely. Or I guess I would say hybrid, but because there was an office I could go to, but the other team members were located in other countries, so it didn't really make sense for me to go in there. And then the third one was also hybrid. And now I'm back to on-site, actually, a little bit. It's supposed to be hybrid, but I just started, so I'm trying to be there a lot in the office.
Well, I mean, since you now have quite a lot of experience in the different types of working styles, like what are the pros and cons of each mode, would you say?
I would say one of the pros of working on-site is definitely how easy it is to just like catch someone and have a conversation. Like if you meet at the coffee machine, then you just spontaneously start talking about something. Or that you also get to know your work colleagues. But I guess you need to like your work colleagues a lot then. But then if that is the case, it's very nice, to build relationship with them at work. I feel like when you're remote, it's much easier that it just becomes about the work, not so much about the social stuff. But on the other hand, a con to working on site is definitely commuting and, having to get ready and pick your outfits and stuff. I mean, when you're at home, it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, you can just be in pajamas and stuff.
Yeah, and be very comfortable. You can wear very comfortable clothes.
It can be a little dangerous also at the same time, though, but it's mostly good.
Double-edged sword in a way. Yeah, I think it's easier in a way to understand what's going on in the company a bit more if you meet people. Like you can talk about what other teams are doing, for example, what they're working on. Just this whole of running into people, I guess, I think is a pro of working on site.
But what about like how do you then do all this team collaboration like in each mode, would you say? Like with the remote and like hybrid and like on site, like how do you how do you work even together with others?
Yeah, I would say as a software developer, I think it like just daily work is actually easier doing remotely. Like, because usually if you sit, for example, 2 people at a computer and you're going through something, it can be a bit difficult, to see and to show things. Like it's actually much easier to just sit in a call and share your screen and then they can just follow along.
Yeah.
I think.
And the mouse pointer, I love that. Like Teams, when you share your screen, you can have 2 mouses. So you can point each other point at different stuff with your mouse. I do that a lot.
And also you can like circle things on the screen, like on the other person's screen if they allow it.
Oh,
things like that. Like, what is this, for example? And then you can circle it, and think that is definitely easier online. I actually sometimes with people I work with, we do the call even though we sit right next to each other because it's
well, I never
easier.
heard this one.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say that's definitely something that is easier.
And what was your personal preference out of these three?
Maybe it's a bit boring, but I prefer the hybrid setup because of, like, if it's just focus work, like I was just talking about, like implementing stuff, I actually think it works better to sit in a call with someone in your team. But if it's about, like brainstorming and like such as, for example, agile ceremonies like retrospective or things like that, I think it becomes easily quite boring if you do it online. Like with the post-its, sometimes you use something called Miro to write a lot of post-its. I really like Miro to work with, but I feel like the dynamic is sort of lost a little bit if it's online. And I feel like I would prefer to, be able to decide for myself if I think it makes more sense to come into the office and be able to grab people, or if it's better to just sit at home and do deep focus work. And just thinking that the people I work with will have the same, considerations. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is my first job, right? But it's hybrid, but it's pretty. I would actually almost call it remote because most of the majority of my team is in another country, and I only sit with 2 people that is in Denmark, and one I sit at the office. The other one is at another office that I'm not at. So it's pretty much remote. And I love the remote job. There's so many benefits, like Hannah mentioned, I believe. Like also when you pair program, I actually really enjoy Miro. Unfortunately, it's blocked now at my work, but I really enjoy it. One downside I think is with being so remote is that I think you get closer to your work, like work colleagues, when you see them in person, and you can easier get a connection. And that I miss with remote. You can very quickly sit alone, especially also if you're dealing with some tech issues that you don't know how to debug or solve. You can be very alone suddenly, and you can always write them, and most of the time they will help you. But it's much easier when you sit right next to them, and you can just see if they're very busy or not, and then you usually get faster, and they prefer helping you when you're like there in person. But otherwise, I think there's a lot of benefits with remote work, and I do hope it's there to stay. At least it's not going back on onsite, but we're hybrid. That's the most important thing.
It's also like, I think when you're in the office, you can just grab someone to be your rubber duck, like just explain the problem to them. They're like, can I just explain this to you? Or I do that sometimes.
Okay.
But I also started using actually ChatGPT for that.
Oh, yeah, I'm so grateful remote. We have that because it's really before I started my work before ChatGPT appeared, and I'm just so grateful it appeared now because I feel a lot less stressed. That I used ChatGPT as a rubber dog too and stuff, and it's almost like your little buddy you have there to help you. So, yeah,
that's nice. So your preferred way of working would be hybrid as well, then?
Yeah, for sure. So now we talked about the different ways of working with remote, hybrid, and on-site, and there's also you can also do freelancing. We actually didn't talk a lot about that. I don't have any experience freelancing. I would like to try it out at some point. Yeah, exactly. We don't have any experience, but we want to in the future. You know some people that do, right?
Yeah, I know some people. Most of them work as contractors for companies. So it's basically like the software developer role, but you're not an employee. more contractor in that sense. I know there are people who are on projects as well, like they need to deliver something. But yeah, we'll get back when we have that experience.
And what about, so there's also the concept of like a gap year. Is that something you done that actually? What was your experience with that? So you taking a time off work for personal growth or travel or hobbies? Like how was that experience that it was a half year you took, or?
Yeah, in the end it turned out to become 6 months. I wasn't sure actually when I started, and my employer was kind enough to say that I didn't need to state exactly how long it was going to be. And I think I had worked about 3 years when I decided to take this leave of absence for 6 months. It was mostly because I felt a bit burnt out. It was last year, so it was 2022, and been working a lot during COVID, sitting at home in my little apartment and just sitting in front of the computer working all day, and then sitting in front of the computer in the evening, like playing some online game or something. We just have some sort of social connection there. And it just became so much sitting in your own head, in a sense. Like I felt it just became too much. I was also experiencing some little stress symptoms, like really bad memory and very tired all the time and body aching and stuff like that. So I felt it was a good time to take a break and just focus on getting back to a sustainable pace of working, I think, because I had, for some reason, gotten used to working at a very high, like putting really high, what do you say, like high expectations on myself, that I was going to do like a super long to-do list and I was going to get through all the items by the end of the day. And if I didn't, I felt like I wasn't productive. And it became a little bit of a vicious cycle. So I wanted to get out of that and just focus on doing things slowly again, and just working on my own project, which was just setting up my own blog and exploring some technologies around that, and then working out. I ran a half marathon, did some traveling, read some books. It was good.
So
stuff.
That sounded like a lot of benefits that you got there.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was good for me, and I hope I could get to do it again, maybe in 3 years again, if I feel like I need it. It's just, you spend so much time working, and I think sometimes it's good to take a break.
So
if you have the means to, of course. I was very lucky also to be in a situation that I could do it.
Yeah, I was about to say that. What is, like, there must be some downsides or risk. What do you believe is, like, what's the potential risk and downsides of this?
I would say one risk is that you completely lose your sense of purpose, since you don't have this structured day that you have in work. You need to go to work Monday to Friday, or even if you work more than that, that this is, the focus of your life in a sense. And then when that is, taken away, you can maybe be on vacation for a while, but then you start to get a bit restless, I think. And the question is how you're going to react to that situation. If you're just going to turn into, like someone who'll just sit idle and not do anything, or if you're actually going to work on something that you have set as a goal for yourself. So I think that's definitely a danger, just in the end not doing anything. But it needs to be a balance as well, I think.
Do you think it will affect your, like, one's career?
Depends on how long it is, I think, and what you have done with the time. If you don't have maybe thought about why you need to do the gap year or the couple of months off, I guess it can be a bit difficult to justify why you did it. But I feel like most people have. Now I'm located in Denmark and in Europe. I mean, there are different work cultures in other countries, obviously. I'm sure in countries like the US or something where it's, the work culture is very different. Maybe people will be less understanding, but at least here, I feel like most people have at least understood, the reasoning why I would do it. But then a lot of them don't understand how I could do it because they're like, oh, I would be so bored. I could never do that for such a long time.
It's definitely, I mean, a lot of people I talk with have like the thought that they want to do it, but it's so difficult doing it. And yeah, taking the action to do it. I myself, I'm not there yet, but I mean, in the future I could see myself do it. But why do you think it's so difficult just doing it? Like just saying, going up to whoever your manager, boss, and say, I want to take half a year off.
I think it is. Well, if you don't consider the part, where there's bills to pay or kids to buy food for or pets or whatever, I think it's also about, maybe being a bit scared that you will fall behind. Either if it's like career or knowledge, or just the fact like that you mentioned with your previous question, like does it, affect future employments and things like that.
I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah. And I feel like I've seen more and more, people taking leave of absence on LinkedIn and stuff, but a lot of the times it's because they had kids or some other life-changing event, such as being home, with a new child, and maybe it feels easier, to have this very specific reason to leave, but I still think it's pretty uncommon, and I think most people like the safety of knowing what they're getting themselves into, and then just staying on track, staying at work and keep performing and moving towards your career goals or whatever feels like the sensible option. But who am I to say? I don't know how most people think, since I actually did take the leaves. I guess I do think a bit differently, maybe.
Well, that's why we want to know, right? How could you do it? So, but yeah, it's I could definitely imagine it's just like if you don't have any plan, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I had a few people that I talked to. I had one friend from work that I met regularly just to check in about how it was going, and we talked a little bit about like a vision for the leave of absence, like when it's over, what do I want to have achieved or how do I want to feel and things like that. It wasn't very structured. It was mostly just a discussion. And I felt like that's a good approach. It's a good approach to like think about, oh, where do I want to be when this leave is over? But for me, it was also a little bit of burnout and like trying to regulate my performance expectations on myself. And then I felt like this way of like measuring how well I was doing in my leave of absence would be counterproductive. So I just tried to not, be too strict about it, and just set goals such as like I know how to work in a sustainable pace. I take breaks. I eat my lunch. I do things without stressing about it. That's actually one of the things that I definitely learned during the leave of absence, is just let things take their time. Pasta boils in 8 minutes. Just stand there and wait. Just don't just run around and try to do something else in the meantime while the pasta is boiling. Just do it slowly. Like don't just try to optimize everything. Or that was the answer for me, at least. So yeah, I think you just have to find your own way. That's maybe a boring answer, but I think maybe that's a good place to start, to set a vision. Where do I want to be after these 6 months? And then somehow set up an accountability process. Like if it is like talking to a friend once a month who you have told about your goals, or if you write a diary, or journaling, or whatever it is.
Would you do it again?
Definitely. I mean, it hurts when you look at the bank account. It does. I mean, I'm not gonna try to make it sound better than it is in that sense, but mentally and spiritually, it was, so much worth it.
All right. So, what would you say your main takeaways is from this? You liked hybrid, preferred hybrid. I prefer hybrid too, because we want to have that social too in work, and also work-life balance, while also being able to work productively, focused. And yeah,
I guess something we also didn't mention is that it's nice to get out of your own house.
for sure. Yeah, that's for sure.
And I also saw that some co-working spaces have started up here in Copenhagen, and they have these events also that you can go to meet people.
I'm actually looking into that. I'm really considering giving it a try.
And getting back to what we talked about, freelancing, I think that would be a great option. Like if you are remote, for example, and freelancing, to rent a desk at one of these places and actually get to meet people in your everyday work, by going to an office, even though you don't work together with those people.
Also, one thing I remember about freelancing that I didn't mention before is I talked with a lot of, some people that wanted to do it. And it is the problem, like the good thing with not doing freelancing is that you get a stable income all the time. Where freelancing, you are always on the hunt and stressed about getting a new customer to get some salary, because there will be periods where you get absolute no money. But it's just something to keep in mind. I think it's important to mention with freelancing, one of the downsides. So I guess this is it.
Yeah. I think that's it for today. Stay tuned for the next episode. Next week.
Every week, new episode will come. So thank you again if you're listening all the way to now. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate it. And hit that follow button. And see you soon.